Coming to you from the Windy City. Welcome to Let's Talk Shop, a podcast about all things cloud and enterprise tech. Listen to insights and guest interviews with IT thought leaders and professionals. Now, here's your host, Elias Kanaser.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Let's Talk Shop. Look what I have in the studio. One of my dearest, oldest friends, Gary Eimerman. I am so happy that you are here today. Welcome to my humble studio.
This is my pleasure. I'm excited to get to catch up today.
That's amazing. So, for those of you that don't know, I've known Gary for a very long time, since 2008, I want to say, when he was still at Train Signal. He was also looking at the Train Signal videos earlier. So we were reminiscing a little bit. Gary, everyone knows you at Pluralsight. You had been at Pluralsight for what? Over 10 years, right? With the acquisition and everything.
Yeah, I mean, you combine the Train Signal and Pluralsight time, and it was like almost 18 and a half, 19 years. Like that.
Wow. And what were you doing at Pluralsight before you left? Like, what was the last thing you were doing?
So the most recent thing was the chief product officer there. So over the skills product. So everything that you think of with the author community, the actual experience that you get from a leader or a learner at Pluralsight.
When did you leave and why did you leave?
When did I leave? So I left at the beginning of the summer.
Okay.
I had worked on a transition plan there. And the why was because after 18 and a half years and going from 2 people to 2,500, from going from bootstrap to venture backed to ABCD public to private equity. And just a lot of travel. Like I know you know this, based in Chicago.
Yep.
But I mean, the office was in Salt Lake City. We had
and you were back and forth all the time.
Yeah. And so my goal was just to sort of do a midlife retirement and spend a little extra time with the family, which
I know his wife is very happy and the kids too.
Yeah. Which we did do. It wasn't as long as I expected it to be, but 3 months. Yeah. I think my wife gave me 6 months. I was shooting for 2 to 5 years.
Yeah, right. Those of you that know him, he's not retiring for 2 to 5 years. That's impossible.
But we had literally just the most amazing family summer, where it was like the summer of yes, where it'd be like, hey, you want to go to see a College World Series baseball game this week? Sweet, let's grab a car and go. And we did that for the summer.
He just took his wife out for the first time outside of North America after 18 years. Seriously, that's just wrong. If she's watching the podcast, give him all the crap you want. Green light.
You're going to get a phone call and a text from her today. I know that.
So you took a break.
Yeah.
For 3 months. What are you up to now?
So right at the beginning of that 3 month, I got a phone call from a company and a recruiter who had reached out to me like a year ago. And I had just said, hey, not interested. Like nothing's going to happen there. Like the company's based in London and New York. I was like, I'm not doing this travel thing again. And they're like, no, really, like, I really think you should take this call. I'm like, okay. Who's it with? And they're like, Ewan Blair, the former prime minister of UK, Tony Blair's son, has a apprentice company, Multiverse, where it's really focused on driving equitable opportunity for individuals. Because even in the current system, especially with college, as you probably know here in the US,
right?
But it's global impact. Like there's just a huge amount of debt burden that's now weighing on people. Okay. And his whole model was that the individual does not pay for the education that they are getting. And they actually get paid for the apprenticeship while they're on the job. And it was like, this is an interesting situation here.
So wait a minute.
Yeah.
So I sign up.
Yes.
I become an apprentice. I get taught a trade, whatever that trade is, tech or whatever else it is. I don't pay.
Correct.
Who pays?
The company who's actually going to get the unlock of economic value. So think about it. What are you doing as a company when you are hiring someone? Like, unless you're a nonprofit, let's remove nonprofits. But if you're a corporation, when you hire someone, you are hiring someone to do a job that ultimately unlocks greater financial potential for the business than what you have to pay the individual. Like that's part of being a profitable company.
Sure.
And what we all sign up for. And so why isn't the organization that's actually going to reap the benefit of you having XYZ skills the one paying for XYZ skills?
But then will that company, is the apprenticeship program going to be company specific? So for example, let's say, I don't know, Pluralsight. Let's just use your old employer.
Yeah.
Pluralsight's looking for a curriculum manager. Will they set what you would need to teach this person, or how do you make it so that it is, hey, I'm teaching skills that you're gonna want to pay for?
Yeah. So the first thing is we build apprentices around some of the most in-demand roles and responsibilities. Primarily right now, it is in the data space. So like your data analyst, your data engineer, those type of roles, software engineer, things like that. But the goal is not just to be a tech apprentice company. The goal is really to take apprentices to any role outside of what already is apprentice. So you think apprenticeships have been around for centuries. This is not a new concept. But we've sort of fallen out of favor for the college degree model. And what we'll do is we actually create the curriculum plan for said role, and then work with company, Pluralsight company, Delta, Verizon, you name it, and personalize that program for the needs. But we're showing up with the majority of the curriculum already built out, because the reality is a data analyst for Acme Core and a data analyst for Bozo Core, at the core, the skills, the competencies, the behaviors are going to be very similar.
So this is almost like reinventing college. Like, even if I have to pay for it, I'd much rather pay for an apprenticeship where it's hands-on from someone that's been doing it, on the job experience, as opposed to, no dig on college. You've gone, I've gone. Like, I appreciate the degree and everything, but you step into work and you're like, it's like you don't know much. It's like you're learning at day one. You're starting to learn again.
Right.
So this sort of overcomes that.
Correct, because like the actual apprentice is on the job in the role. So you have, as an apprentice, you have your direct manager, and the other element that you have with Multiverse is we're supporting the apprentice manager as well. Because the reality is, a lot of us haven't had the opportunity to have an apprentice. And so you've got that component there. We also have a coaching network, which is all employed by Multiverse. And so you've got these coaches that are then helping the apprentice through the journey. And then you've got the materials that help both the apprentice manager and apprentice.
So this is fascinating for me, because in a lot of my videos, one of the ways that I actually advise organizations to build skills is to create an apprenticeship program within the company, internal. So this is fascinating. So how differentiate that for me, and for those that are watching this and hearing this for the first time, differentiate that from certification?
Yeah. So certification.
Sorry to interrupt, but like, for example, if you wanted to forget about tech for a second, if you wanted to get into, I don't know, HVAC, you can go take a certification for that, and hey, you're certified. But that doesn't mean that you have any kind of hands-on experience. It's kind of the same problem that we're in all over again. So how is this different than a trade certification?
Yeah. So certifications are absolutely part of an apprenticeship. When you think about that, they are part of the journey.
Okay.
And so that is something that you can do anywhere where there is a certification criteria that hey, I have this. And through like the model that we're working with is that I also have applied experience, not just classroom and passing a certificate and actually showing on a level of knowledge retention. I'm actually showing you in practice in my behaviors. The other key element is, especially with our apprentices, we focus heavily on durable skills. A lot of times, historically, it's been called soft skills, but fundamentally, they're the skills that are durable from one role to the next. And those have completely changed in the last decade. How we work remotely and how we're engaging with teams. How do you manage a team that is remote? How do I communicate via email and Zoom and Slack and all those behaviors that have changed as the technology has changed? So it's not just the technical skills. It's also those durable skills that come into the apprenticeship. And that's one of the other big value adds, because candidly, college doesn't do a lot of that.
No, it doesn't.
And so when you're hiring a career starter, you're like, there are some times where it's like, oh my goodness, like if you aren't a mature organization with a huge training budget and system already set up, it is hard. And so we're trying to like really just make that easy and like where you can just drop in our apprentice model.
So that's fascinating, at least for me. And I'm going to be a forever learner. So this type of thing is amazing. But can anyone sign up? Or would you sign up? Is there a waiting list to be matched, or is it immediate? Like how does that work?
Yeah, so we have an admissions team. So very similar to how a university would have an admissions team.
Okay.
Our processes are different because one of the key things is equality.
Okay.
And so like back to the question of like, hey, like why did I all of a sudden make this like jump, was one of the things that really shocked me was when I actually dug into it and actually saw the analytics and the data that supported it. The numbers backed up the actual statement of like equity. And so incredibly proud of like our numbers around women, BIPOC community, and getting those in. And that's part of the admissions process, is really making sure, because this was founded to unlock opportunity for people who didn't have opportunity. So think about like the college situation, where like you and I were able to go out and pay for our college, whether it be through loans, family financial support, whatever it might be. And there's others that have that. There are individuals who don't have that flexibility, or when they do, if you look at the data right now, what did I see recently in the US in the last 10 years of private loans that have been taken out for a student, which is like 98% of all loans, more than half of them for the first time ever have a greater amount due than the original principal that was on them.
That's insane.
Meaning
it's
that
the interest.
If things don't change, you are in a perpetual lifetime debt cycle. And then that limits economic opportunity, the risk of taking on like businesses like you and I have done over the years. I mean, houses, cars, all those things.
It trickles.
And it's a downward effect to everyone. And so back to the admissions process, we want to make sure that we're getting people who don't have that ability into this opportunity. And so we do that. We also have to make sure that there's certain baseline skills with mathematics and reading. So
there are prerequisites.
There are some prerequisites. And that's one of our goals, like long-term, is to like, who can we partner with to make sure that we don't have to turn anyone away. But we also have to make sure that that you are the right fit for this role. So like if it's a software engineer or a data analyst or whatever it might be, if your personality and your desire doesn't match that, we don't want to just put you in. That's not going to be, it's got to be a win-win for both sides.
Is it primarily focused on English speaking right now?
Right now, yes.
Okay. Which country? Is it open internationally? Is it focused?
Yeah, internationally. I mean, like being founded in the UK, there's a heavy presence there. US market, obviously, those are the two largest markets, but really it's available to anyone who's in an English speaking organization and focus. What
industries are you covering right now? So obviously tech.
Yeah. I mean, really, here's the beautiful thing about like where we're focusing, which is in the digital space, is like every company. Yeah. So you've got automotive, you've got fintech, you've got software development, consulting shops, you've got your SIs and things like that as well. Like really, it's almost universal in who we can already reach, but we also know that we want to expand into retail and manufacturing and other places as well.
This is fascinating. He's about to change the whole way we've been learning. And I think it's a good way. It's a good way. We all have mentors, right? We all have apprentices. This is kind of bringing that into a structured approach. I love the idea of giving opportunity to everyone. I love the idea that someone else is paying for it. They are going to reap the benefits in some other way. Speaking of reaping the benefits, those companies that are sponsoring or paying or however way the business model works, do they get first dibs at these professionals when they are finished with the program?
Yeah. So think about this. You're actually on the job working with someone. Like, what better way to identify the right talent for your organization? I haven't seen the newest dashboards because I brand new. Like literally, I'm still counting my time at Multiverse in days at this point in time, not even weeks or months. But in the interview process, one of the metrics I saw was actually a 93% placement rate. So that's another thing. Like when you talk about college, like everyone talks about like, oh yeah, like we have these huge diversity numbers from like admissions. Well, then you don't actually look at the graduation rates. You don't look at the debt rates that because they are outsized when you look at
yes, they are.
The different demographics, and then you don't look at the placement into an actual role after the fact. Like this literally said like 93% placement of apprentices into the role that they were in, and it's like that's huge.
So not to get political, but this is how you solve problems. This is how you solve problems for student loans and debts and everything else. How long does it take for someone to get through the program on an average?
On average, it's anywhere between 12 and 18 months.
Okay.
But the reality is like, I whenever asked this question in the educational space, I was like,
It depends.
I always say that let the content and the skill development
Drive
the length, not some like prefixed like, hey, to get this certification, you must sit for X number
of time.
Time. That like that's not beneficial. Like, because if you and I are stuck in the car stuck in the garage doors broken, and we're trying to figure out how to get to the podcast real quick, I'm gonna be late. I have two options. I have a 2-minute lesson or a 10-minute lesson.
Choose.
Both of which successfully get me through. Which one are we all choosing?
Yep.
2.
Yep.
Okay. So why are you telling me that 10 minutes? Like historically, we've measured education based on time and seat, button seat. How much time did you spend online? How much time did you spend in the classroom? Whatever it might be. And that's our measurement of success versus the ideal state for me as a content creator and education creator is how can I teach you as quickly as possible? We all like love the Neo scene where he plugs in and I know kung fu. That's right. Exactly. Like that's the ideal state. Now, maybe I don't want something poking in the back of my brain, but like,
hey, we're getting close.
There are people trying to do that right now. Yes.
Speaking of people that are trying to do that, all the hype's on AI.
Yes.
So I want to talk to you about how AI will find its way into education. But let's start with, you and I haven't talked about AI since this whole craze of ChatGPT kind of exploded in the last, 8 months. So give me your thoughts on where do you think this whole thing with AI is going, whether it's Gen AI or AI in general?
Well, let's start first in the fact that this isn't the first wave of AI hype.
I agree.
It's every 5 to 10 years. It does seem to be shrinking in distance between the peaks of the hype wave. But like, I mean, this predates even us in the technology industry, which is saying something. But I do
want
believe
to play a game.
But I do believe that there are elements with each one of these waves that create compounding impact. Because that's one thing with a lot of the technology is this is a nonlinear curve.
Right.
And so while people have been like, oh, it's slowly getting better, slowly getting better, slowly getting better, it's going to be one of those when it actually crosses over the human perception and human adaptability. It's going to far accelerate past that really quickly. So I think right now, generative AI, first of all, AI in general and machine learning have unlocked a tremendous amount of things, especially based on the amount of data that we have when it comes to education. I also think that generative AI is at a super interesting point. Like you think about your Gartner hype cycle.
The hype cycle. My ex-Gartner hype cycle.
Your ex-Gartner hype cycle. And I think I've seen this actually even get updated recently, that I feel like generative AI is going to hit that trough of despair here before coming into like the healthy plateau of future. And so I think that because like right now everyone's looking at it, it's like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing. Like we can do this with it. We can do that with it. We can replace this and this. And it's like, no, that's not
yet.
not how it's going to go. But I do think that with any technology advancement, like we are seeing right now, there's going to be a moment where it actually creates disruption, confusion, potentially loss of jobs initially. And then it's
chaotic.
It gets chaotic. And then as it gets into that more mature state, you actually end up increasing the number of jobs, increasing the impact.
I agree.
And so I'm a big believer of that. Like, I know there's a lot of doom and gloom out there around AI. I actually believe that this, because we aren't talking general AI here. We're talking another computer technology. It's going to be an enabler for us to improve impact and societal benefits just broadly. Specifically to education, this is incredibly exciting and there's some really good stuff. One thing that's really hard to do with education that no one likes to talk about is mapping taxonomies and ontology. Because guess what? Every company that builds really great materials has to have some sort of structure, some sort of information architecture underneath it, so that it actually makes sense and you can tell people, hey, you should do this, this, you should go over here, things like that. So does every other company. So does every HRIS system, every talent management system. Everything has these skills taxonomies or ontologies. Historically, what happens is you buy a system, you buy a platform, they don't actually match, and then you either choose to adopt one or the other,
right?
Or you pay a bunch of people to actually map that.
Right.
Now, I think you and I have both been involved in these mappings over the years, specifically with our own training products. And the second that you finish it, it's out of date.
That's true. That's very true. I can attest.
And so this is something that AI and machine learning does really well. Super fundamental, super infrastructural, but it actually really helps. Where I think it then builds upon, though, is you think about human in the loop. I'm a big believer of coaching networks when it comes to artificial intelligence and machine learning specifically, which is basically human in the loop AI. Instead of it being black box where you train an algorithm on a set of labeled data and then you put new information in and it just spits it out. I actually think that the best utilization, especially in education, is that you're creating a continuous loop where the actual artificial intelligence and machine learning is outputting something that is then using subject matter expertise and empowering them. So think of it as like an exoskeleton for the smartest people in the world. How many times do you meet someone who's incredibly intelligent but has no idea how to transfer that knowledge to someone?
Yep.
Imagine a platform that actually could take that knowledge and distill it into something that is teachable. The other thing you think about is like once you get all these platforms, a lot of times people don't leave LMSs or LXPs because technology advancements. They actually leave because it's full of crap now and they can't find anything good.
That's right. That's exactly right. Too big.
Yeah. So imagine a platform that actually took strong instructional design, learning sciences practices. This is what makes great learning. And I can verify that there is knowledge transfer happening and see when things change and say, hey, this piece of content that you threw up or this garbage PDF or garbage document that someone threw into your learning platform,
get it out.
It's not effective. Suppress it from being found. Tell the content creator this needs to be improved. And then even like an end state. Imagine using generative AI to actually take all the lessons that have been learned from all the other pieces of material in that system and say, oh, actually, here's what I would recommend to you. But then you're keeping the human in the loop where then they get to come in and validate. Is this still a actual factual piece of knowledge?
Human augmented AI. See, I'm not a Gartner anymore, but we're still creating terms.
I mean, there's got to be an acronym for it. Creating a term.
There you go. So this is really interesting. So he tied it back. He tied AI back to learning.
Yes.
Is this kind of, and I don't know if this is something you can share. If not, so be it. But is this where the organization is going?
Yes.
Is AI going to be part of what will be built into the infrastructure, whether it's curating to the apprenticeship program, in whatever case? Is this kind of the direction?
Yes, and it actually already is, even today.
And it's the direction because you firmly believe in it, not because it's, hey, all the AI hype, right?
Correct. So I am a big believer, even as a technologist, I love like being on the leading edge of things, but you can't use technology for the sake of technology.
That's right.
You have to think about what is the outcome that you're trying to create.
That's right.
So if you're thinking about as a content creator, what are some of the biggest challenges? Keeping information up to date. The speed of being able to develop something, like those are big things that are lifelong strives and journeys to improve. Our goal would be able to snap our fingers and take everything in your mind that you already know and be able to teach it to everyone in the world. Okay. What if we used AI to actually help that? Take away the need, like if you could, and I shouldn't say if, you can teach your algorithms to create assessment questions based on the material that's already been created.
That's right.
Based on different Bloom's levels of taxonomy. So again, using strong instructional design technique to then train and automate certain things. Taking the creation of a table of contents and automatically creating that, so you're not starting with a blank page, because let's be real, we all start with a blank page, and
you stare at it for a while.
And then you like scratch something out, and you move it around, and it's like, hey, great, give me something to start with, and now let me take that and
And
validate
move.
and
Yep.
move forward.
Yep.
Those are all things that will be key. The other element is like learning's hard. Like anyone who's out there trying to learn something and you get frustrated, like, yes, that is part of the learning journey.
The frustration is part of the learning journey. I like that. Yeah. I'll steal that.
And it normally gets most frustrating right before the giant breakthrough. So also remember that the harder that it is, the probably closer you are to that breakthrough. But behavior change and motivation is one of the hardest things around education.
Right.
And having access to the smartest minds in the world. Now, one of the ways that we've already incorporated AI into our platform, and it's in beta right now, is actually an AI coach. And so as you're going through the process and you have questions, you have that instantaneous superpower. And I don't want to give it too much.
Yeah. We're not going to call it Jarvis yet.
Not yet. But someone to be there and help answer those questions in that moment of need, help guide you, but not answer the thing. Like if you ask our AI coach, like, answer this or solve this project for me, it literally responds to you like, hey, I appreciate that you might be stuck here, but
It's
my
your
goal
job
here
to
is
answer.
my goal here isn't
assist you.
to answer it, to help me understand what you're stuck with. And so having that personalized tutor for your specific skill level at every step of the journey, that's an incredibly powerful place for AI to show up in education.
And I'm sure it's taking all the content from the other coaching that's happening, all of the other paths that are going on, and that's feeding it, right? So it's constantly also evolving.
Yeah. And so we're trying to get more and more interactions into our data set so that it can constantly learn of this creates a great outcome. Great. Was it just for that individual? Was it for all individuals? We can start to test it out. And then the other amazing thing, this is where technology does things better than humans, is like, we always talk about, oh, how do you know that? Well, I've got experience. And it's like, okay, well, great.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But imagine the amount of experiences that you can have from a global community. And so you can actually start to see and identify like, hey, you're going to actually learn better using this piece of material than this piece of material automatically because of the millions and millions of transactions and interactions that have happened. And without even you knowing it, you're actually getting something slightly different than myself, because at that moment of the learning journey, like we always talk about, hey, I have a preferred learning style, or like, hey, I'm an audible learner, a visual learner, kinesthetic. The reality is you're all of those things at different moments in time based on your contextual experiences, and yours are going to be different than mine. And so if I can provide you with a better experience by knowing your behaviors better than you do, we can actually do that with technology.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So a question popped into my mind. Why the name of the company? Like, the name of the company feels, but no. I mean, the more I think about it, the more I kind of get it, but I want to get kind of a reassurance from you. But it just feels like you're touching the virtual world, the augmented world, AI, and that's kind of a perfect place to learn. But you tell me, why is it named?
You know what? This is a question that I'm gonna have to add to my one-on-one with you and tomorrow.
I stomped him.
Yep. I know it has nothing to do with the multiverse of madness. And,
multiverse of madness. That's fair.
The Marvel world, but I might have to figure out a way or a reason to dress up as Doctor Strange at some point in time.
I just want to be Iron Man. If there's a multiverse for that.
Absolutely. But no, I mean, fundamentally, like, for me, multiverse actually lands in the fact that, like, we are trying to create opportunities for all.
Makes sense.
And that there really is that ability to not have a single path through the world that currently.
No. I mean, like I said, the more I think about it, the more, at least from my interpretation, it makes sense. It's a multiverse. It's a different approach, a different way of looking at things. So instead of, hey, you have to go to a university. No, you don't. You can go down this path. There's AI that's going to help. There's coaching. There's just a different way of looking at things. So hopefully that's the definition of why the company was named. When you're looking at your crystal ball, from a tech perspective, education perspective, what do you feel like might be coming? Anything that is kind of on the cusp of a breakthrough that maybe hasn't been talked about enough? Anything interesting, or is it more variations of AI?
Well, I think that the use cases for AI, because remember, it's not just about the technology, it's how are you
Sure.
actually using it. I think that like what we talked about with the digital tutor, the personalized tutor component, I'm seeing that pop up in a couple of different places, which is really awesome to see. Khan Academy, Conmingo, huge fan of the work that they're doing there. And I think that what really gets interesting is it's not just about mentoring the actual student, it's also about supporting the teachers, and they focus primarily on K through 12. If someone's not familiar with Khan Academy,
check it out.
Go check it out, especially if you have kids. I don't care what quality education they are currently getting. Khan Academy can supplement that in a really, really positive way. Oh yeah, 100%.
I'll make sure my nephews are probably watching Tell Your Mom.
Hey, you could set your uncle up as a teacher coach in the app, and he can
sign
hold
me
you
up. I'll do it
there. So I think like that's super interesting. And then I also just think that with the broader evolution of cloud computing and the ability to rent resources that we haven't at a very affordable rate, it opens the doors for more and more hands-on experiences. And it's not just in software engineering and cloud computing, which is where a lot of that has shown up. But you get to the place where augmented and virtual reality starts to become an element. Like think about training for heavy machinery and
manufacturing.
Exactly. These robots that are all showing up on any manufacturing floor. Some of these robots cost in the tens of millions of dollars, and they're not going to just let anyone
touch them or use them
and learn.
That's right.
It. But imagine having the actual experience where you are putting on a headset and being able to go through the training process and go through the practice, the simulation. Same thing that
fascinating.
We do with doctors and airline pilots. There's same thing. It's just becoming more available to everyone, which then unlocks the opportunity for everyone to go take on these roles.
One of my final questions to you: do you feel like this technology will give us a more skilled labor than we've had in the past? Is it just different? I feel like this supercharges experience. Like, if somebody used to work at a car manufacturer, right? You were there for 30 years, you probably became very good at your job.
Yep.
But that's 30 years to get to where you're at. Do you feel like we can shrink that significantly?
Yes. So this actually ties with what I was talking about, where like you actually use the system, the platform to understand what you know, how you learn, and what you need to get to. Like it's an oversimplification of a very complex network of nodes on the back end. But if we know those three things, I can get you there quicker. And so that is one element of it. Fundamentally, the more kinesthetic learning that we can do, the better we are for anything that requires not just thought, but actual action, which most skills require some level of engagement, physical engagement with it, even if it's just fingers on the keyboard.
Is this demo? Can we demo this? Like, is this something you can demo, or how does this, like, I'm trying to imagine, is this something we can at some point record a video of how it works? Can we show the interaction between a student and someone that's teaching them?
Yeah, so you can absolutely show like the experience that is actually experienced by the learner or the apprentice manager or teacher or content creator. You can always demo those things. It's really hard to demo the actual information architecture underneath without getting into a really crazy schematic of those things. Because you think about it, like the number of nodes that are connected go far beyond just like what you and I actually think about. Like, even though we've been in this industry, you think about, okay, I know if you know this, you're likely interested in that. But there's thousands and millions of additional connections that happen from your actual company, who you're like, what your role is currently, what your role is going into. Imagine like learning Python slightly differently because you are a digital marketer versus a data analyst on a logistics team. Like, but then having the ability to use technology to create
a transition sort of.
Well, and to create a actual project that's specific to your industry. Like, hey, yes, we have the framework of hands-on experiences today, but it's one size fits all. You go get the same lab that I get type situation. But now take our generative AI and say, I need this lab to be customized for a data analyst in logistics. Great. It's now going to populate fake data and fake questions that are very specific to that role and responsibility. You're a digital marketer. Same infrastructure set up for the lab, but now the actual experience, what you're being asked to do, can be actually vary. So all this compounds to ultimately make, I think you asked the question of, does this create a higher skilled
labor force?
Yes, because you're opening the door to more people who are completely capable of having outsized impact from what their opportunities actually present to them today. So fundamentally, I have no doubt that there's a yes. And we all have to realize that we are no longer in a world, in an environment where we go through school, K through 12, post-grad, college, whatever it might be, and have that same skill set for our entire life.
I agree.
We are now, you brought it up earlier, lifelong learners. We all have to be lifelong learners. That is actually the new social agreement. We just never formally made it with anyone.
I agree.
And so it is as important for you to know how you learn and how you can build your learning capabilities is more important than XYZ tech skill or not. Now, you still need XYZ tech skill to get the job done at that moment in time, but you're not going to use that same tech skill in a couple of years.
You guys see why we're friends? I love this guy. Every time he's on the show, I get so much information. I get so many emails, so many comments. So can we invite everyone to check out the website and sign up, or at least fill out an application? I don't know what the admission looks like.
Absolutely.
Where would they go?
So you just go to multiverse.io.
I'll have everything in the link.
Yep.
Yes.
You can see that. And then we will be evolving additional opportunities for folks that go beyond just the apprentice, but that'll be the next time I jump on the.
Hey, we're going to bring him back, right? I'd love to get your feedback on this. I'd love for you to check it out, maybe do some research, leave some comments below. What did you like? What do you think? I'm a firm believer that things have to change. Even the way we learn has to change. I mean, our educational system is good, but that's the same process, same approach that we've been using forever, right? So this is an opportunity to, one of the things I always say is make technology and business indistinguishable. This sort of does that for the education space, because you're learning hands-on immediately what you need to do day one on the job. Gary, parting words?
Just a huge thank you to you for giving this opportunity for us to chat. And then I have a similar ask of everyone. Like, I'm brand new in this space and would love to hear, what do you want to see as the evolution of Multiverse? And like, reach out to me directly. You can reach out in the comments as well. It's not hard to find me. Yeah.
Oh, I will leave all of his. He opened that can. I didn't do anything. I will leave all of his contact information, no email, but I'll leave LinkedIn and Twitter and stuff like that. Reach out to Gary, and when you're submitting that admission form, just say Gary. Gary, always great to have you on the show. We're gonna have to bring him back, maybe 6 months, 8 months, a year. We'll see, depending on some new announcements, some new things that are going on. But this was fun. Thanks for coming. All right, everyone. We'll see you in the next one.